Welcome to Tiny Vegan Kitchen. We are making bread. Plain and simple English bread, courtesy of my mother. Hi Mum. This is a very simple recipe. It's very easy to make, and it doesn't have all those useless ingredients that the bread that you buy in the supermarket has. If you ever looked at a bread ingredients list that you pick up in the supermarket, you pick up these whole grain loaves that have 1,000 ingredients that they don't actually need in them. This doesn't have that. This is simple homemade bread. You don't need a bread machine, you don't need anything special, and this is how you make it. You need 2 cups of strong bread flour, 2 cups of wholemeal flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, 4 teaspoons of vegan spread. We're using Earth Balance Soy Garden, 1 teaspoon or 1 packet of dried yeast, and 1.5 cups of warm water. And that's all you need. To get started, you mix the flours in a big bowl. Both the flours just go straight in there. I'm going to mix the salt in with that. Just 1 teaspoon of salt. And just mix this around so that the flours are mixed. And then once the flours are mixed, we're going to rub in the 4 teaspoons of the butter substitute. Just tip that in there like that. And use your fingers at this point and just rub this in between the flour. And it will just start to break down. And just kind of squeeze it through the flour. And just keep doing this until it's pretty much broken up so that you can't really tell there's much in there. You want to get a kind of nice even spread throughout the flour. It might help if you warm the butter slightly, if you have a really cold refrigerator. Just leave the butter out for a couple of minutes before you start the recipe and make it easier to rub it through the flour. Okay, that's good for us. So now we're going to add the dried yeast and the water. Important thing with the water is not to add it all at the same time, because you don't know how much you're going to need. Add it bit by bit, mix it in, and once you get a good stiff bread dough, stop there. You might not need all of it. So I'm just going to put our yeast in the middle, and probably you can add most of the water right now. Shout out to our local fireman. Just give that a stir. Yeah, need more water in there. This water doesn't have to be hot, just warm. You just get it out of the kettle if you boiled a cup of tea earlier in the day. Or coffee, if you're an American. A little bit more, we should be good to go. There you go. See, it's actually picking up all the bread mixture from the outside of the bowl. That means it's about right. It's sticky enough to pick up all the flour, not too sticky to move around. So this is good. Happy with that. The next stage is to turn this out onto a well floured surface. So just get your flour and flour your surface. Put a lot on here. You can't really put too much. Don't worry. You can't really overdo it. Take your dough, which should be handleable now. It shouldn't be too sticky to actually just pick it up out of the bowl. And it should naturally pick up most of the contents of the bowl as you're stirring it in. So now that you have this on the floured surface, you need to knead it. And you need to knead it for about 10 minutes straight. That doesn't sound like a lot, but this is how you knead it. Just fold it. You want to get some air into the loaf. Keep turning and folding. And what you'll find is the bread will start to pick up the flour that you've moved on the surface that you're working on. So it will start to get stickier. So you just stop every now and then and reflour the surface. Just you can move the flour around that's on your board, or just get a bit more out of the bag. Don't be afraid to use too much, but don't overdo it. You don't want to add too much to the actual recipe, just enough to stop it sticking. So we're actually going to do this for 10 minutes. My mum always said that if you have good strong stomach muscles, you're okay, but you'll feel it the next day. And if you don't feel it the next day, you didn't do it well enough. And believe me, once it gets to 8 minutes, it feels like a long time. Remember, this recipe, along with many others, is on our website at tinyvegankitchen.com. And a few people have already subscribed to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/tinyvegankitchen. Hello to all our subscribers. We appreciate your support. So hit us up on YouTube and subscribe to our videos. You'll get notified of all the new ones that get put online. You can also find us on AOL. Apparently, I found that out today. "10 minutes later, my abs have had a good workout and I've kneaded the dough for a solid 10 minutes. Don't skimp on this because this is the most important part of the bread. So knead it for 10 minutes. Once it's done, you'll end up with pretty much what you started with, but it'll be nice and aerated. And you want to split this in half, so we're actually going to pull it apart. And you see it's really elastic and really doughy. This is what you want. So pull it apart in about 2 even pieces. Give it a couple of knead in each, just to put it back into shape. We're doing this because we have 2 bread tins, 2 smaller bread tins. This is usually the best way to make it. So I'm just going to get that nice and done, and the second one. There we go. 2 pieces of bread ready to go. And we have our 2 bread tins. And we're just going to lightly grease these down. Again with a bit of Soy Garden spread. So we're going to lightly grease these up. And this is just so that the bread doesn't get stuck once it's cooked. And then you want to shape your loaves to roughly the shape of your tin. Now they're going to be a lot smaller, but these are going to rise. So I'm just going to roll these out. If you have long tins, make them a long loaf. And you want about the same amount of space around each side, so that when it expands, it rises, it fills the tin properly. If you have it more round, just one lump in the middle, it will just rise in the middle, and then it will just make a funny shaped loaf. You'll still be able to eat it, but just be a funny shape. So that one's good. I'm going to do the same with this one. Just going to roll this out by hand and put it in the middle of the tin. Now these are ready to prove. Proving takes 1 to 2 hours. Keep these tins in a warm place, lightly covered with a dish towel or something like that. And 1 or 2 hours later, they should be about double in size. It might happen sooner if you put them in a particularly warm place, so just keep an eye on them. Once they're doubled in size, they're ready to be put in the oven. So we'll check back then. Welcome back to Tiny Vegan Kitchen. We've allowed our bread to rise for about 1 hour to 2 hours, and as you can see, it's doubled in size. It now fills the bread pans perfectly. So we're going to get this in the oven, 450 degrees, for about half an hour. Okay, our bread's been in the oven and it's about ready. The alarm's just gone, so we're going to get this out and have a look at it. Oh, well, that's good. Okay. Now you can tell with bread, usually just by looking at it, because it looks like bread, it looks like cooked bread. But we're going to take it out of these pans anyway and make sure that it is fully cooked. So we just need a spatula. Now because the pans are well greased, it should come out pretty easily, but do take care because these pans are really hot. So we're just going to tip this up, like that. And the way to tell if bread's cooked is just tap it on the bottom. If it sounds hollow, which it does, it's fully cooked. Get the other one out. And there we go. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you next time.